let's get right into it. Today, we are tackling a huge question. I mean, it's one I think we've all wrestled with, probably after a long day of watching the news. Can we, as human beings, ever really truly change our nature?
You know, it is so easy to end up here, isn't it? You look around, you see the same destructive patterns playing out over and over again, and you just start to wonder, is all this talk about being better, about improving, is it just talk? It's a really cynical thought for sure, but let's be honest, it comes from a very real place. But here's the thing. We don't start out that way. Nobody is born a cynic. So let's just rewind for a second. Try to think back to a time when you felt genuinely inspired, When you felt like a better world wasn't just some pipe dream, but that it was right around the corner. For pretty much all of us, that journey starts when we begin asking those big questions. Like, what's my purpose? What does all of this mean? It's a totally personal search for something bigger, for a set of truths that we can actually build a life on. And when we find those answers, whether it's in philosophy or spirituality or just a simple personal code, man, it feels like getting struck by lightning. It just fires you up. That initial spark gives you this incredible sense of hope and this really powerful drive to go out and build that world you're imagining. And, well, this is where things get complicated. That bright, burning fire of idealism always, inevitably, slams right into the cold, hard reality of the world. So what happens when that hope starts to fizzle out? Well, this hope starts to erode in a few key ways. We see people we look up to fail. They don't live up to their own words. We think our new understanding is going to change everything overnight, and it doesn't. And maybe the toughest one of all, we start to see our own shortcomings. We realize we can't always live up to the high standards we've set for ourselves. And every single one of those disappointments, it's like a drop of water on a stone. Over time, they just take their toll. That steady drip, drip, drip of reality makes you question everything. You start to wonder, wow, was I just being naive this whole time? Okay, but this right here, this is the crucial turning point. What if all of that disappointment, all that cynicism we feel, is actually pointed at the wrong target? What if we've been looking at this whole problem completely backwards? Just think about it for a second. When you feel that frustration, are you really mad at the idea of kindness? Or are you mad that people aren't being kind? Is the problem with the ideal itself, or is it with our clumsy, flawed attempts to live up to it? And here it is. This is the absolute key. The ideals themselves, things like justice, truth, kindness, they're flawless. They're perfect. They're like a North Star we can always aim for. The problem, the real source of all our frustration, is us. It's our human flaws, our greed, our weakness, our capacity for injustice. The principles didn't fail us. We fail the principles. You know the saying, right? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Our human attempts to live these ideals, that's the bathwater. It's messy, it's imperfect, it's flawed. But that doesn't mean we should just toss out the ideal itself, the baby. Giving up on a better world just because people are imperfect, now that is the real tragedy. Realizing this changes absolutely everything. I mean, it completely reframes the whole mission. The goal suddenly isn't about trying to fix the entire world out there. It becomes about mastering the world in here. And if you think back to that first spark, that initial search for answers, it was never really about changing everybody else, was it? It was about finding a path for you. The whole point was to align your own life with something true, something meaningful. And guess what? That original purpose, it hasn't changed one bit. So embracing this inward path means we have to accept a few pretty hard truths. First, this is my quest. It's my own. I can't force it on anyone else. Second, this is not easy. It's going to demand constant effort, constant vigilance, especially when the world is pulling you in the exact opposite direction. And third, because of that, yeah, it can be a pretty lonely journey sometimes. So, knowing all that, knowing the challenges, knowing we're going to be disappointed, knowing it can be lonely, how in the world do we keep going? How do we stop that fire of idealism from just burning out completely? The answer is in something we can call a renewed idealism. This isn't that naive, wide-eyed enthusiasm we started with. Oh no. This is a mature, resilient, battle-tested commitment. It's about seeing human weakness for what it is, in others, and especially in ourselves, And deciding that's the very reason we have to strive even harder to uphold those higher standards in our own lives. It really all comes back to this fundamental thing deep inside all of us, that deep, nagging, persistent longing for a world that's more just, more true, more kind. That feeling isn't naive. It's not silly. It's the engine of all human progress. But, and this is a big but, that longing alone isn't enough. It's got to be paired with our continued, conscious effort. The day in, day out, striving to reflect our ideals in our private thoughts, in the words we say, and in our everyday actions. And here's the beautiful payoff. That combination, that inner longing plus our outer effort, that is the whole mechanism. That's how it's done. That is the only thing that actually creates the world we're imagining. We don't just sit around and wait for the world to become ideal. We start building it, right here, inside ourselves. So we end up right back where we started, but with a totally new perspective. The question isn't, can humanity change? The only question that really truly matters is this: to build that ideal world that you long for, where will you begin?